Hi team, welcome to another Quick Connect podcast. We are excited to have on the show today Garry Downs. Garry is just recently back from a trip into France, riding across the Pyrenees and following the Tour de France actually. So managed to finally track him down and get on the safe wavelength to be able to talk to Garry. So super excited to do that today. And just a quick update before we go too much further, other stuff that's going on. We've got a membership card. You should have seen that in the last few emails that we've sent out. And yeah, lots of good stuff going on with spring just about here. It's really northwest and windy and lots of rain and in the headwaters of the Waimak at the moment. So hopefully you're thinking about those spring adventures, and summer's just around the corner as well. So hopefully you're doing well and we're ready to go. So let's bring Garry Downs onto the show. This is episode number 18 and number 148 of all the podcasts we've done so far. So Garry, are you there?
Hi, Richard. Thanks very much for having me on.
Yeah, so good that we managed to finally connect. It's been a little while since you were in France, and absolutely fantastic trip. You trained hard for it, and it went super well. So super excited to be able to kind of rekindle some memories of what it was like, what your experiences were like, because a lot of our team follow the Tour de France and are pretty keen to kind of potentially get over it there at some point as well.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, it was an absolute bucket list for me. I think I've been wanting to see the tour live for at least 20 years. So it was a great adventure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And a lot of those people that ride in the virtual world and Zwift with me will recognise Garry Downs. I think you often ride with a Training Peaks top on. Is that right?
Yeah, and an afro. No.
Yeah, exactly. Racing to the front. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit more about your trip. Give us a bit of an overview. Where did you go, and what was the general plan for your trip?
Yeah, I was contacted by one of my oldest friends from Queenstown, Rob Hay, who said his sons were riding the Pyrenees and he was going in support, and would I like to come along? Mm-hmm. And my wife very generously said I could go, and
Cool.
That quickly morphed into, well, why are we supporting? Why aren't we riding ourselves? And so we decided we'd ride it as well with Rob's sons, and we got one of their friends to drive the van for us in support.
Good.
The general theme of the trip was we were going to start at the Atlantic Ocean and then ride across the Pyrenees Mountains to the Mediterranean, which is the sort of that's the narrowest section between sort of one side of France and the other. Mm-hmm. It's about 650 k's and 14,500 meters of climbing between the start and the finish.
I was going to say that it's reasonably narrow, but there's a few hilly bits in the way to slow you down a bit, Garry.
Yeah, there's some pretty famous mountains in between. Yeah. And we ended up doing about just over 500 k's and 10,500 meters of climbing over 7 days. And the other aspect of the trip was to coincide with the tour. Stages 14 and 15 when the pros were in the mountains, which was real bucket list for me.
Yeah. Good stuff. So let's just take a step back before we get into more of the details about what you did and things. Tell us a bit more about your background, your riding background. Have you done this sort of thing before? What's your background in regards to, I guess, riding day to day and a bunch of climbing and maybe riding your bike overseas, etc.?
Yeah, I'm basically a mountain biker, and after COVID, friends suggested we do the Tour of New Zealand, which is a charity ride from Queenstown to Wellington. Mm-hmm. And so that was my sort of first road adventure, and that's when I signed up with TeamCP, thankfully.
Yes, that's right.
Help me get ready.
And you did well on that one too, didn't you?
Yeah, thanks to you, we trained hard and I enjoyed it. It was good. Yeah, so I've done a few mountain bike trips before, a few overseas ones. Tried to do the BC bike race years ago. In Canada, done a trip to Colorado and then South Africa, and then most recently to Bhutan, which was sort of a fantastic adventure from one end of Bhutan to the other.
Wow. How long did that take?
24 days. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And what was the conditions like there and the terrain and the riding environment?
Bhutan is an incredible country. You get up into Himalayas. So you get up to I think the highest we rode was about 3,800 meters. But you go up and over the mountain passes, so you're not in the up in the heights for a long time, but you
Yep.
certainly get to see some incredible forests and mountains.
Wow, that's fantastic. So was that like self-supported, or was there a tour that you were on? Were you carrying your own gear, or what was happening there?
Yeah, we did that tour with a guy from Wanaka, Doug Hamilton, who runs Black Peak Travel, and he's been doing Bhutan trips for over a decade. So he's probably the most expert of all people doing those trips. And the way Bhutan works, you sign up on a day per diem, and you get with that you get Bhutan people supporting the tour. So yeah, we were lucky enough to get two of the best mountain bikers in Bhutan, as it turned out, to help us. Yeah,
good. And you're able to keep up with them?
No, but they were very kind to us.
Little tow rope that I prepared earlier. Yeah, that's fantastic. No, that's awesome. So based on that background, which is pretty extensive, doing lots of different tours around the world and things, I guess how confident were you feeling prior to doing this ride, and I guess keeping up with your friend and his son, etc.?
Yeah, I think I was equal part nervous and excited, especially when I look at one of the days was 3,500 meters of climbing, which was probably 2 times more than I'd done before. So I quickly persuaded Rob that the old guys on the trip might have a bit of a van pickup on that day, so we can reduce it down a bit. Yeah, so some big days climbing, so reasonably nervous about whether I could achieve that, but thanks again to your help, we put in a good plan and got trained up for it.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome. So in terms of, tell us a bit more about that preparation. What are some of the things that you did leaving winter, riding around Auckland? Obviously, there's a bit of Zwift involved in that because it allows a bit of consistency. But what were some of the key things that you did to help you give you some confidence and know that you could put some back-to-back days together?
Yeah, we really did I think a 12-week plan together. Probably the first part of it was May Meters Month with TeamCPNZ.
Yes. How'd you go with that? How many meters did you get?
Did the 14,000 in the month, so that was pretty good for me at least.
Yep.
Then, as you said, some Zwifting, some meetups with my friend from Queenstown, now Rob, going on the trip, which it's a great feature of Zwift that you can ride together. Mm-hmm. And then making sure I did at least one long hilly ride a week to try and get some vertical meters in.
Yep. Fantastic. So you did 14,000 vertical meters in May, and you did 10,000 vertical meters in a week in France. Yes. Yeah. How were the legs feeling at the end of that?
Surprisingly good. I think because you're in the moment, your sole focus is on riding for the day, and you're taking it pretty steady, or at least we were. And so, you sort of, that's your total focus, and it's amazing what you can achieve, I think.
As you just keep moving forward. What did you do nutritionally? We've just got back from our Backroad 400 trip in Northland just recently. It was pretty much a trip focusing around pie shops for the whole time. How did you go in France? What did you do nutritionally to keep yourself going over the course of your time there?
Well, as the guys in the Toulouse bike shop told us, their nutrition was Belgian beer. But
okay. Did you partake in that?
No, I tried out a new thing for me, which is infinite nutrition. Which is your carbs and your drink and all in one bottle. And so you could do, I think I did 2 hour times 2 bottles before we filled up at the van type thing. And that's 80, I think it was 80 carbs an hour, and it was just worked so well, I thought. But we did discover something called Orangina at cafe stops, which is sort of like a French version of Fanta, I suppose. But it tasted so good there, and it tastes so bad here, so I don't know why.
Okay. So, but nice and cold and refreshing after I'm sure that's part of it as well, isn't it? Cold and refreshing after you've been biking for 4 hours. That surely tastes better in that situation.
Something like that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your gluten sort of levels like as a result of traveling through France? Did we have a baguette or two or a croissant?
Yeah, well, just by way of context, I live in one of my daughters is a celiac, so I live in a totally gluten-free household. So it was a big change for me to jump from gluten-free to full-on
100
French
miles an
gluten.
hour.
So I have to say that, yeah, my system didn't cope with that entirely well.
Yeah.
But yeah, uh, it was quite good to get back to the regular routine when I got back home again.
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. You'd ridden some of these climbs virtually on Zwift. How did they compare? Which ones did you ride, and how did they compare in the real world?
Yeah, I signed up for an online platform called Ruby, I think that's how you pronounce
Yep.
it, which actually has video of the climbs, and so you
Yep.
climb up the climb, and I did Tourmalet, Col de Tourmalet, and Col de Aspen on Ruby, and they were incredibly similar. I think my time up the Tourmalet was just over 2 hours, and my time on the virtual platform was just over 2 hours. So
Okay. Right.
yeah, it was.
So that tells me there's no weight doping on the virtual platform of setting yourself down to 45 kilos.
I should have thought of that. Yeah.
Get it done a bit quicker. It's a bit tougher in the real world to do that, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Tougher.
And did that help? Did that help prepare you for what you're up against?
I think it did. I think it gave me just let me know that I could ride for 2 hours uphill. So it gave a little bit of confidence having done it on the virtual platform. Yeah, but as you say, it's nothing like the real thing, which you're adding in temperature and scenery and road surface and other riders. It's pretty.
That's right. So tell us about those conditions. What were they like? Was it hot? Was it cold? Was it rainy? Was it blistering? Tough? What was the weather like when you were up there?
Overall, we were riding in summer conditions, nice and hot. A little bit too hot at times in the afternoon in terms of how everyone was feeling on the ride. But as it happened on the two biggest climbs, the Col de Tourmalet and the Col de Pyrenees, which both go over 2,000 meters, those were in misty conditions, which then turned to cold conditions, which then turned to whiteout. So that just added to the experience, really. And perhaps on the Tourmalet, at least, you couldn't see the top, so you didn't know how much it was to come still.
Can't be too much further. Half an hour later.
Yeah. And the Pyrenees, we had to stop halfway down and climb in the van and put the heater on for about 5 minutes.
Did you? I was going to ask you, like, how we like. Yes, it's fine. You can keep yourself warm as you're going up, but how do you go going down? Or was the van waiting at the top to give you some more clothes?
It was, but then luckily the van decided to stop halfway down on the Pyrenees, and we had to jump in. I put on every piece of warm clothes that I had, but but the incredible thing is, by the end of that day, we did something like a 30-kilometre descent from the tops down to our accommodation for the evening, and you could just feel the warm air coming up the valley, and it just got warmer and warmer and hotter. So from starting the day freezing, you ended the day boiling. So it was
sweating with it because you've still got all your winter clothes on, haven't you?
Stripping those off at a rapid rate.
Oh, fantastic. It sounds like a pretty good way to do it logistically. Like, there's different tours and things that goes on around the place. I've done it kind of with my brother solo, just sort of in a bike packing sense, but having that van as a bit of a backup, and especially someone that's dedicated to driving that van opposed to kind of having to share the driving amongst that, it feels like that will be a pretty good way to go and experience France and riding some of these climbs.
Yeah, no, it worked out really well. I think that was one of the challenges of the trip, was the logistics. How do you get bikes and bike bags and people from one side of France to the other, and then deal with getting bikes back to airports, etc. And a friend of mine had ridden the Pyrenees before and suggested we go to Toulouse, which is halfway between the start point and the end point, and we picked up a camper van there with a bike rack on it and drove it to the start line, and that just turned out to be the perfect solution.
Yeah.
And we're very lucky we had a really good driver, and he's one of New Zealand's committed drone photographers, so he was able to do some of his own stuff at the same time. So
Okay.
it sort of felt a bit bad that one of the guys was having to drive while we were doing the riding, but it worked out okay because he had his own passions and in terms of doing the drone photography. So.
Yeah, so he could do a bit of that and sort of have other stuff to do while so he's not just waiting for you kind of thing. He's busy doing his own thing. That's awesome.
Yeah, but cool. It was very nice to see the van pulled to the side of the road and stop off and refill bottles or get some more nutrition or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. It's glowing. Oh, thank goodness. So exactly the right thing that you want to be seeing. Tell us about some highlights of your trip. What were some of the sort of key moments that sort of really stand out reflecting back on it?
Well, the overall highlight was being in France in summer in the mountains. It was very life affirming, I thought, to be doing that.
Yeah.
Riding with good friends and sharing the adventure with good friends. And sort of knowing the destination, but not knowing exactly what was going to unfold during the day. It added a sense of adventure to each day. I thought the French roads, I'd always heard how good they were, but the French road surfaces are just fantastic to ride on. And when you couple that with the scenery, the mountains, and everything that's sort of going on in the day, it adds to a great experience.
Yeah, the other riders, the people, the atmosphere, even just the lack of cars and vehicles as well, because they're little back roads basically you're riding on, aren't they?
Basically back roads in the countryside, Yeah. And then experiencing the tour, we rode the stage 14 the day before the tour went through, and then we actually rode part of stage 15 on the same day as the tour went through. So just to experience that, what I'd call is really a joyous occasion of people watching the tour. Everybody's just so excited about what's about to happen, and then the high energy as the tour caravan comes through, and then to see the riders come through and to see how fast they're going on the same terrain that you've struggled up not a few hours before.
Yes.
And then even riding up the mountains passes at the same time, there's people on the sideline cheering you on, which adds to the experience. You feel a bit of a fraud. I think Podjakar might have been going 3 times fast as I was at one section. So it's crazy, isn't it, when you sort of like compare you to what they're actually doing. But pretty cool to be able to sort of ride up. Not like people are camped out all day, so they're just chilling out and sitting in deck chairs and bits and pieces. So more than happy to give you a cheer on, cheering everybody on up the hill. So that's pretty cool experience to be part of. Yeah, no, they're very generous with their applause.
Don't get that too much around Auckland.
No, it's good. One could say it might be the opposite around Auckland.
That's awesome. Were there any learnings? No, not learnings. Were there any tough bits that you were like, oh my God, I've sort of had enough of this now, and turns into real type 2 fun?
Possibly one of the. We were lucky we had the van, and at some point in the afternoon, the thought of going up another hill was probably enough, done enough in the heat. So there was the odd van pickup, which just sort of took all that hard stuff away, I think.
Okay.
But overall, just the fact of being able to ride up some of those mountain passes and enjoy the experience. Took away the tough bits, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, no. So there wasn't too much type 2 fun. That fun that's not really fun at the time, but on reflection, it was quite fun. Actually, all in all, you managed to keep it pretty much type 1 fun. Fun that's actually fun. Yeah,
I think the day I was shivering, couldn't control my shivering going down. The descent was possibly verging on type 2 fun.
Yeah. What about the downhill? How was the downhill? What was the longest downhill that you rode?
I think the longest one would have been 30 Ks.
Yep. And how long did that take? How long are you riding for?
That's a good question. It would be at least an hour and a half, I'd say.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
It's crazy,
maybe an hour.
Yeah. You're riding downhill for a good hour, sort of thing. It's like you're on a motorbike, basically, isn't it?
Yeah. And you have to be quite focused. You at least if you're not an absolute expert, I think you're quite tense on downhill. You've got the hands on the brakes on the hoods, and it does seem to, you get a bit of a aching hands, so you got to tell yourself to relax and just go with the flow a bit more to take the sort of aggregated tension off your body going downhill. But it is pretty nice though when you're experiencing the scenery speeding past you.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a pretty good way to get good at downhill, isn't it? Like when you're riding downhill for an hour, and especially when you can trust the road and the gradient isn't crazy, and then it's not crazy chip seal, and it's not crazy drivers. You can sort of actually just flow down the hill. You must have felt more and more confident as you went on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think you do hear some stories about people going crazy on the descents and that causing issues. So we took it pretty easy on the first few days, and then, as you say, your confidence builds over the last few days. Yeah.
Do we have a top speed stat for us?
No. Can't recall one.
In case your wife might be listening. Okay, we'll move on. Yeah, that's fantastic. Is there anything you learned from the trip, or would do differently if you were to go back next time? Sounds like you pretty much nailed it from my perspective.
Yeah. The only reflection I had is it's over so quickly. You think it's going to take a long time, and then it's finished. So probably on reflection, it might have been good to add a few more days riding in. I think it was 650 k's for the total, and we did 500. So we could have spent a couple more days and done the lot, sort of thing. And the week goes pretty quick once you look back in the hindsight mirror.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. You had a good app that you used to take photos and sort of share what you're up to. What was that one?
Yeah, I came across some good apps on it. For the trip, I used Polar Steps, which a friend of mine suggested, which seemed very easy. Very easy app to just do a daily update to keep family and friends informed of what's happening. No, I thought that worked really well, and it's free, so
it's kind of like a social media Facebooky type platform, but you can kind of share it with just friends or people that you want to follow you, and then you can also push print at the end of it, and it'll print out a book for you as well.
Yeah, it's incredible technology in that sense.
Yeah. So that's super cool. Advice for others. Any advice you would give others that are sort of looking at heading overseas? I guess heading to Europe, heading to France, heading to the Pyrenees to ride, in terms of looking to do that for themselves.
Yeah. Well, just I was thinking a couple of apps which were really good. There's an app called Splid we use, SPLID, which you just shared all the expenses of the trip. So every time someone paid for something, they put it on, and then that just divvied it up at the end of the trip. It made things so easy.
Okay, that's great.
In terms of who owes who for the trip.
Yep.
We used that. The Tour de France recommended Waze, WAZE, as an app for driving, which is something I'd not heard of before, but that worked incredibly well in Europe. So that was another good app. And then for the riding, we use Komoot, which probably everybody knows about, but was new to me in terms of mapping each day's ride. And that was just great navigation. It loaded straight on to the Garmin, or you could just use it off your phone. Those are all good learnings, I think, good things to take into account.
Yeah, and that's great to share, because there's always different things coming up in that whole technology app space world to be able to just make your trip more fun and simpler. So and in terms of that riding app, that was giving you the Tour de France route or the best route to ride. Is that sort of how it was working?
I think the guys just found the routes off the internet and just copied them onto Komoot, and so that meant we were always on back roads for the entire ride. So that made it so good.
Yeah, fantastic. In terms of the ride, like how long was the longest climb that you did?
The longest climb would have been about 20 k's, I think.
Which took about how long? That 20 k's an hour. It's longer than an hour.
Yeah, it's about 2 hours.
Yeah,
just over 2 hours. Yeah.
And how do you break that down in your head? How do you get through like 2 hours of just constant grinding uphill? How did you go with that for yourself?
wasn't too bad, I thought. It was a matter of just not, approaching it for me at least, at a steady pace. We had the occasional stop for, in the shade, just to have a drink or something. But overall, it's just sort of just being in the moment and enjoying the scenery and keeping it at a steady pace, so you're not sort of redlining or anything of that nature. And just ticking off the Ks. Every K, there's a road marker which says what the average gradient's going to be for the next K.
Okay.
So, it wasn't so good when it said 10.5.
Oh, all right. Okay. We're just going to get through this. But you're right, isn't it? Like, it just actually stay in the moment, being where you are, enjoying that and looking around and soaking it up, and then you get there. And that's probably something that we've all kind of worked on when we've just been battling on and completing these long endurance type adventures. So what is your next adventure? What's happening next for Garry?
Well, I think once you've been to Europe riding in the summer, it sort of is quite tempting to do it again. I have to say. Subject to family and funding.
And the leave pass.
The other thing that I've been looking at recently, there's a town in Tasmania that converted to mountain biking called Blue Derby, which looks quite interesting. So the whole town is focused on mountain biking and the trails they've built there. So that could be another possibility in terms of the next trip.
Okay, I like it. And that's a little bit more close to home, and it's just experience different things, isn't it? Different adventures and what's on the cards.
Yes. Indeed. Yeah,
that's fantastic. I do need to put up this. I just about forgot. In the depths, as part of your trip, on the whole, there's this slide that I've just put up on the screen right now for those that have listened to this before. It's our cooked toast. Number 1 is completely burnt. Number 9 is just lightly toasted. Whereabouts are you on the scale of completely cooked versus? I'm pretty happy with this in regards to your trip as a whole, Garry. How were you at the end?
Definitely a 7 or 8 for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So not too bad. So pretty under control.
Yeah. We made a very good decision to go into Spain for a few days R&R afterwards, so that just capped it off beautifully.
Okay, good stuff. Fantastic. No, that's fantastic, Garry. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Great to be able to share. It's always cool to challenge ourselves and do different adventures. I guess we train for lots of different things and lots of events that we line up on the start line next to others and get a time, but it's also super cool to create our own adventures and sort of train for that and be big enough that you're not quite sure how it's going to go, and it's pretty motivating, isn't it?
It is. That sense of adventure, I think. Be beaten.
Yeah, good stuff. No, that's brilliant. Okay, well, looks lovely and sunny out the back there, so I'll let you go and go and enjoy that, and we'll look forward to catching up with you soon, Garry, and thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you for having me on, and thank you for your support and getting me ready for it. It was a huge part of the whole trip was having the fitness and the ability to enjoy it. So I want to just pass on my thanks to you as well.
Yeah, no, that's no trouble at all. Enjoy it. That's fantastic. Well, thank you, Garry. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks, Richard.
Good stuff. Just like that, I have to say that's one of the best parts of my job is to live vicariously through people like Garry, getting out there and doing these adventures and seeing their Stravas, having to zoom out to see where they actually are, checking out photos and comments and bits and pieces, and just the success that goes with that as well is pretty awesome. So really thankful for that and for all the great stuff that everybody that we work with does. So with that said, next Wednesday we're off to China. There's 2 Team CP teams going. We've got a Team CP Marlborough and a Team CP Canterbury. We're going to go over and have a crack at the Wulong Mountain Quest in southern central China. So just looking at the weather forecast yesterday, or the actual weather, 42 feels like 49. I thought it was a Fahrenheit Celsius problem, but actually no, it's not. So currently in the process of doing a bunch of heat training. Last night was our Zwift session. Monday, I did a Zwift session with no fan and a hoodie on with the hood up. Thought I was doing pretty well. Sarah told me, who was in my team, said that that's not good enough. So on Wednesday, we put the oil heater on and the fan heater on, no fan, and that was definitely a challenge. The old power numbers were down on that one, and I think I spent most of the time sort of making sure that everybody's going well from the back of the peloton yesterday. So we'll keep chipping away with that, getting ready to go. And as of next week, we'll be doing some quick podcast updates as we go, and then also doing some little videos as we head around the course and keeping you updated, as long as I can not drop my phone as I'm heading down the hill like we did last year. So look after yourself and keep up those adventures, and all the best for your upcoming adventure, and we'll catch up soon. Cheers, team.